looking back on that game, Coach, what could or should Kyle Shanahan have done differently to change the outcome of that game?
We should have added a little bit more variety in our running game. Um, we've been saying it lightly, and it's hard to talk about uh, what you don't like about the team or just some areas of improvement when you're 5-0. But Christian McCaffrey is getting used too much. I feel as though that we can start with a more balanced run attack when it comes to just personnel. JP Mason needs to start seeing touches early. We haven't seen TDP at all. I don't know. If Elijah Mitchell is on the field, I'm assuming he's healthy. Okay, like full stop. If he's on the field, he's healthy. And moving forward, it's it's no secret that Christian McCaffrey is what makes our offense special and what makes our offense Super Bowl contenders to put us over the top. And I would like to see a more balanced running attack from just a frequency perspective. Like, let's get some other guys carries earlier in the game. Also, uh, it's time for us to stop engineering around the guys that we don't want to block. We're just gonna have to play. And I understand that we, from a blocking perspective up front, we can really get cute and get creative with being able to single out a TJ Watt or to be able to play a lot of mind games and a lot of give a lot of different looks to Aaron Donald or a Michael Parsons. But it's a whole different ball game when you scheming for not just Miles Garrett, but you scheming for an entire front four where everybody literally can get home and be a threat in the run game. I feel like our schemes were curated to kind of go at Miles Garrett, but a lot of the times Miles Garrett wasn't making a factor. It was it was Davius White. It was other players. It was Dalvin Tomlinson. Dalvin Tomlinson made so much of an impact on the run game in this game against the Browns, but yet he only recorded one tackle the entire game. Like, that right there shows that there's ways that you can dominate a game without showing up on the stat line, and it showed. They were holding our offensive linemen. They weren't letting screens get open. It's just, I feel like our offensive line played against a defensive line who was not preoccupied with just beating the man in front of them, but they played a defensive line with a plan. These guys had a plan. They knew what to expect from our offensive line. So much so that you could see them holding our offensive line for screens. You could see them blowing up on bull rushes on outside and inside zone where you could tell that they were just trying to get penetration. They owned the line of scrimmage. And I feel like that was something that we noticed early and we necessarily just couldn't do anything about because you don't know you're a physical team until you play one, right? You do not know you're a physical team until you play one. And we played one. And, from the trenches perspective, which is, my modus operandi, that's kind of like where I see football from the trenches out. We got dominated.
Yeah, I mean, this was the real first physical team that the 49ers have played.
Hmm.
And the 49ers are the big bullies on the block. They have been for quite some time. It does seem like every year they run into a team that is just as physical. And the
Hmm.
first time that they run into them, they're kind of shell shocked a little bit. But then as
Yeah.
the season goes on, when they run into that team again or they run into a similar team, it's like, okay, now we know we got to amp it up another level. We can't just be our normal selves. I talked a little bit earlier about how I felt the 49ers were feeling themselves a little bit too much. I think that much was clear. You saw
Yeah.
the argument, the pregame
The
uh
pregame.
what scuffle, I guess you could call it.
Yeah. The
You saw
kerfuffle.
Jawan Jennings dancing after the first down like they had won the game there on the final drive. There was just a lot of little things. But as far as Kyle Shanahan goes, I'll tell you what, coach, I think Kyle Shanahan lost this game. If we're putting it on him, which it's not
Hmm.
fully on him, but for
Hmm.
those that want to put it on him, he lost this game the previous 5 weeks. And what I mean by that is he didn't have a game plan once CMC was out because he's relied on CMC way too much. And once CMC was out, that was it. It was over
He
for
admitted
him.
as much. He
Yeah,
admitted
he
as
did.
much.
He
He said
did.
that I was not prepared. I was not prepared not only to lose CMC but to lose Debo at the same time, and
Mhm.
they weren't prepared for it. I mean, you can give Kyle, you can give a tip of the hat to Kyle for at least being honest, but that's not acceptable. Just because you were honest doesn't mean that it's acceptable, right? We're in year 7 of this regime, and you mean to tell me that with all of the weapons that you have, you're not prepared for the number one thing that the entire NFL is known for? That's attrition. Like, that's injuries. If how can you say that you weren't prepared for losing both CMC and Debo Samuel with number one, the type of football that we play, number two, with both of their histories, and number three, with what you know is at stake for the year, for the success, and what you put on Brock if you don't have a plan. It was kind of wild that he actually just kind of like admitted that as if we weren't listening. But I agree with you. like uh Not understanding that you're going to go play on the road in inclement weather against the number one defense in the league, and not having a backup plan, or at the very least being shocked that you lost two of your best players on offense and not having a plan. um Kyle's got to own it. Everybody stands on the carpet on this team, right? Um, Brock, the defense, CMC, Brandon Ayuk, Debo put himself on the carpet before the season even started,
Mhm.
right? Um, Kyle is no special. He's no different. He's not special, right? And what was worrisome to me about this game, where everybody can, get on the kicker. Cool, right? If you really just want to be
That's the
surface,
low-hanging fruit. It is in this
yes. If you
game.
want to be
Yeah.
surface level about it, yes. All right. Burn Jake Moody at the stake, whatever. Kickers have punchable faces. We get it. But but at the same time, you have to understand that what's good for the goose is good for the gander, man. Like, you can't tout how proud you are of the fact that we're averaging 30 points a game, right? And then double down on it when we beat a team in Dallas who saw us coming, right? That was kind of like when all of this stuff when we
Yeah.
kind of like went over the, like, a little bit of hyperbole. Myself,
Yeah.
I said we are the best team in football. Like, I was on an emotional high. But if you look at it, um when even when we after us beating the Cowboys, you have to understand us scoring 19 points, and being proud of the fact that we scored 30 a game. We start out fast, we are running through teams like a buzzsaw, and then we face a team in Dallas who saw us coming, and the reaction was through the roof with euphoria and elation. You got to put the same scrutinous eye on the fact that we faced the number one defense on the road, and we lost the two players who we all are worried about losing on our offense outside of Trent, right? And we only put up 19 points, and we struggled. We struggled.
Not
That's
even. We
alarming.
only put up 17. They put up 19.
17. I'm sorry. We only put up
And
17.
7 of
That's
those
true.
came from the defense. Like, let's keep it a buck.
Yeah.
The 49ers scored 10 points on Sunday.
Yeah.
Like,
They
that's
scored. Thank
offensively, they
you.
scored 10.
They scored 10 points. And then, all right, cool. Offense, defense, you can put it on the defense all you want. For the defense, yes, they got ran on, okay? But the defense had a really legit excuse in not having Dre Greenlaw, okay? And on top of it, they got 2 picks. They did their job. It's like, I understand that we're used to our defense looking a certain way, but for all in terms of purposes, if you can look at the net of Brock and say, oh, well, Brock had an okay day. Look at that last drive, right? He got us in chance, but it was Jake Moody who really shit the bed and didn't get it done. It's cool. But then you also got to look at the fact of, that's the same narrative that we used to give Jimmy. Okay. Giving Jimmy credit for putting out his own fires. We used to do that all the time. Now, is that fair to Brock? No. Brock is young, and he's literally, this is the first blemish on his entire record, right? You have to have hindsight with Brock, right? We're not going to do Brock like we know how other people would do other people. we're going to give Brock a chance.
For sure.
Okay. Brock deserves our grace because of what he's shown thus far. However, you have to admit that Kyle didn't seem too prepared to be able to support Brock once he lost to Debo and CMC.
Mhm.
There were a lot of times where you could say, oh, well, Brock threw a bad pass here. Brock was off target here. Brock looked like the game was bigger than Brock looked like the game was bigger than him in those moments. You could see the size of the game on his face. A lot of that was on Kyle for not being prepared to walk Brock through. That's on Kyle, right? We can't keep pushing this kid as if he's top 5, but forget the fact that he needs all of the support of a second-year player who hasn't even played a full season. That's what's being missed in Brock's poor performance. It's the fact that once he started playing poor, it didn't seem like there was anything around him to support him.
Mm.
That's what was alarming.